God is warning you today. Please don't scroll past. Not because this message is dramatic, not because it is trying to scare you, but because your heart was meant to pause right here. You could have kept scrolling. You could have told yourself, I'll listen later. You could have chosen something easier, lighter, less confronting, but you didn't. Something inside you hesitated. Something inside you felt a quiet pressure. Something inside you whispered, pay attention. And God says, that hesitation was me. This warning did not appear by accident. It did not reach you randomly. It arrived because heaven knew today mattered. You may not feel like anything is about to go wrong. Life might look stable on the outside. You may even feel like you're doing your best. But God sees beneath the surface. He sees the exhaustion you've normalized. He sees the distraction you've accepted as normal. He sees the things you've been postponing because you're tired. And God says today, be careful what you delay. Because delay is not always harmless. Some things don't break suddenly. They weaken quietly. You don't always lose what matters most through one bad decision. Sometimes you lose it through constant postponement. You told yourself, I'll pray properly when life slows down. I'll deal with that later. God understands. I'm overwhelmed. And yes, God understands. But He also knows this truth. What is continually ignored will eventually slip away. This warning is not about punishment. It is about protection. God is not angry with you. He is attentive to you. He says, I am warning you because something valuable is at risk. You might think this warning is about your job, or your finances, or a decision you're avoiding. But this warning goes deeper. It is about your inner life, your peace, your sensitivity to God's voice, your clarity, your spiritual awareness. These are not things people see, but they are the foundation of everything else. God says, when your inner world weakens, everything else becomes heavier. That explains why you've been tired in ways sleep doesn't fix, why small things have started to feel overwhelming, why joy feels distant even when nothing looks wrong. Not because God has left you, but because connection needs attention. You've been giving attention to what demands it: work, people, expectations, responsibilities. And unintentionally, you've been giving less attention to what sustains you. God says gently, I know you didn't mean to drift. You didn't choose distance from God. You chose survival. You chose to keep going. You chose to be responsible. You chose to hold everything together. God respects that. But He also knows this: survival without spiritual nourishment leads to emptiness. You've been strong for a long time, but strength without renewal leads to burnout. God never wanted you to live burned out. That's why He warns you now, not later. Because later often comes after damage. God says, I would rather interrupt your scrolling than allow you to lose what matters most. This warning may feel uncomfortable. It may feel like pressure in your chest. It may feel like a heaviness you can't explain. That discomfort is not condemnation. It is care. Urgency does not always mean danger. Sometimes urgency means opportunity, an opportunity to notice, to slow down, to realign. God says, I am trying to get your attention before regret appears. Regret doesn't always come from doing something wrong. Often regret comes from ignoring what we knew was important. That's why God is speaking clearly today, not loudly, not angrily, but firmly. You are not in trouble. You are not failing. You are not disappointing God. But you are standing at a moment where attention matters. One path continues the way things have been: busy, distracted, spiritually numb, emotionally tired. The other path begins with a simple choice. I will not ignore what God is saying today. God says, if you listen now, I will protect what you don't even realize you're close to losing. Stay here, because in the next part, God will reveal what this warning is really about and what He is trying to preserve in your life right now. What this warning is really about, God says today. This warning is not about fear. It is about focus. Many people think a warning from God means something bad is about to happen. But most of the time, God warns not because danger is coming, but because drift has already begun. You don't drift all at once. You drift slowly, a little less listening, a little more rushing, a little more noise, a little less stillness. And before you realize it, your heart feels tired in a way you can't explain. God says, I am warning you because something important has been growing weak. Not destroyed, not lost, but weakened. And the most dangerous losses are the quiet ones. You see, the enemy doesn't always attack what matters most directly. He doesn't need to. He distracts, he overwhelms, he exhausts, until you stop protecting what matters. God says, what you are close to losing is not visible. It's not your job, not your house, not your reputation. It's your inner stability, your peace, your clarity, your ability to hear God without confusion, your ability to rest without guilt. These are not things you notice disappearing overnight. They fade when ignored. That's why you've felt emotionally tired, without a clear reason, overwhelmed by small decisions, restless even when you sit still. Not because God moved away, but because connection needs maintenance. God says gently, I know you didn't mean to let this happen. You didn't wake up one day and decide to stop listening. You just got tired. Tired people do not rebel. They survive. They shorten prayers. They postpone stillness. They choose efficiency over intimacy, and God understands that. But He also knows this truth. Survival mode cannot sustain spiritual health. You can survive disconnected for a while, but eventually the cost shows up. You begin making decisions out of exhaustion instead of wisdom. You say yes when you should pause. You stay where you should reconsider. God is warning you now because He sees where this path leads. And He says, I don't want you arriving at regret. Regret usually sounds like, I knew better. I felt it, but I ignored it. I wish I had slowed down sooner. God would rather interrupt you now than comfort you later in regret. That's love. This warning is also about timing. You are closer to a decision than you realize, a shift, a conversation, a direction change, and God says, you need clarity for what's coming. Clarity doesn't come from thinking harder, it comes from listening deeper. But listening requires space, and space has been missing. You've been filling every quiet moment with noise, scrolling, planning, worrying. God says, I am calling you back to stillness because stillness restores discernment. This warning is not telling you to quit your life. It's not asking you to abandon responsibility. God is not asking for extremes. He is asking for attention. Because attention is where alignment begins. Right now, your heart has been carrying more than it should. Not because you're weak, but because you've been strong for too long. God says, strength without rest becomes vulnerability. That's why this warning feels firm, not harsh, but firm, like a loving voice saying, stop, look, listen. You may feel resistance rising. I don't have time for this. I'm already overwhelmed. I'll deal with this later. God says, later is often where loss happens. Not because God isn't there later, but because hearts become numb when warnings are repeatedly ignored. God never forces attention. He invites it. but repeated invitations, when ignored, become quieter. And God doesn't want to grow quiet with you. That's why He is speaking clearly today. This warning is also about protection. You don't see everything God sees. You don't know what He has already shielded you from. You don't know how many wrong turns He quietly redirected. God says, I am warning you because I am actively protecting you. Protection isn't always about danger outside. Sometimes it's about weakness inside. A tired heart is easier to mislead. An exhausted mind is easier to rush. A distracted spirit is easier to confuse. God wants you protected from making choices that don't reflect who you truly are. So He warns, not to scare you, to steady you. If this message feels personal, it's because it is. God knows exactly where your attention has been slipping. He knows exactly what you've been postponing. He knows exactly how tired you are. And He says, I am not accusing you. I am inviting you back. Back to listening. Back to stillness. Back to alignment. You don't need to fix everything today. You don't need to make big decisions right now. God is not asking for action yet. He is asking for awareness. Because awareness comes before change, and this warning is meant to wake awareness gently, but clearly. Stay with this message. In the next part, God will show you why this warning is happening at this exact moment and what He is preparing you for next. Why this warning is happening right now. God says today, this warning is happening now for a reason. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not someday when you feel more ready. Now. Because timing matters. You may not feel like anything dramatic is about to happen in your life. Things might look normal on the surface. Your routine may seem unchanged. But God sees something you cannot yet see. He sees that you are standing at a quiet turning point. Not a loud one, not a public one, but a deeply personal one. God says, I am warning you now because you are closer to a shift than you realize. Shifts don't always announce themselves. They don't always come with signs and noise. Sometimes they come quietly, through tiredness, restlessness, dissatisfaction, or a feeling that something is off. You've been feeling that. Moments where you stop and think, why does this feel heavier than it should? Why am I restless even when I'm resting? Why does my heart feel pulled in different directions? Those questions are not confusion. They are signals. God often allows discomfort before change, not to hurt you, but to wake you up. He says, I am speaking now because what comes next in your life requires clarity. And clarity cannot exist in distraction. That's why this warning is about attention before action. God knows something about you right now. You are more tired than you admit. You are more stretched than you realize. And because of that, you are more vulnerable to making choices you wouldn't normally make. Not sinful choices, but misaligned ones. Choices made out of exhaustion instead of wisdom, out of pressure instead of peace, out of habit instead of calling. God says, I don't want you moving forward misaligned. That's why He slows you down with a warning. You might feel frustrated lately because things aren't moving as fast as you want. Doors feel delayed, answers feel slow. But God says, I slowed things down on purpose, because speed without direction leads to regret. God would rather pause your progress than let you advance without Him. That's how deeply He cares about your future. This warning is happening now because you are about to face moments that require discernment, conversations that matter, decisions that shape direction, opportunities that look good but require wisdom. And God says, you need to hear me clearly for what's ahead. Hearing clearly requires stillness. Stillness is not laziness, it is preparation. But stillness is hard for tired hearts. That's why God interrupts your scrolling, your rushing, your noise, not to control you, but to protect you. God says, I am calling your attention back before confusion settles in. Confusion doesn't usually arrive suddenly. It builds when we stop listening regularly. You may not have noticed, but your spiritual sensitivity has been dulled by busyness, not by rebellion, by overload. And God understands overload. But He also knows this. Overload makes it harder to recognize my voice. That's dangerous, not because God stops speaking, but because you stop hearing clearly. This warning is happening now because God is restoring your hearing, not your ears, your heart. God says, I want to sharpen your discernment again. Discernment is the ability to sense when something is right or when something is slightly off, even if it looks good. Right now, God is protecting you from choosing what looks right but isn't right for you. That's love. This warning is also happening now because God is preparing you for restoration, not loss. You might think warnings only come before something bad, but many warnings come before something good. God warns before He builds. He warns before He sends. He warns before He entrusts. God says, I warn those I trust, because trust requires readiness, and readiness begins with awareness. Right now, God is asking you to become aware again, aware of your inner state, your pace, your priorities, your connection. Not so you feel guilty, but so you feel grounded. This warning is not calling you to panic. It's calling you to pause, because pause creates space, and space allows God to speak. You don't need to withdraw from life. You don't need to disappear from responsibility. God is not asking you to change everything today. He is asking you to notice. Notice how tired you are. Notice how rushed you've been. Notice how quiet your listening has become. God says, awareness is the doorway to restoration. You may feel emotions rising as you read this. Relief, conviction, sadness, comfort, urgency. That mix is normal. That's what happens when truth meets exhaustion. God is not disappointed in you. He is near you. He says, I am warning you now because I want you whole for what comes next. Not burned out, not numb, not disconnected, whole. This warning is happening now because God sees potential ahead, and He wants you prepared, not depleted. You don't know yet what He is preparing you for, but He does, and preparation always begins internally. Before new direction comes renewed connection. Before new responsibility comes restored rest. Before new clarity comes quiet listening. That's why this warning feels firm, because firmness protects. God is not rushing you. He is anchoring you. So if this message feels like it's settling slowly into your heart, that's not pressure. That's alignment beginning. Stay with this. In the final part, God will show you what He is asking you to do next, not in pressure, but in peace.